Hello, and you're all very welcome along to another episode of the Gaelic Statsman podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Hurley. I'm joined tonight by Liam White from the Limerick Voice to discuss this weekend's hurling action in the Allianz League. There's two football games as well, and we'll discuss a bit of the Camogie as well, the very Camogie League, seeing as there's hardly any action this weekend and things like that. But as usual, the podcast is sponsored by Capture Athletics. If you want the best gear around, check them out if you haven't already. So yeah, Liam, as we were saying off air there's hardly any games this weekend, more so soccer and the rugby, obviously, with Ireland and France on and things like that. But still, there are some interesting hurling games to look forward to. Like Kilkenny Tip should be interesting enough. Cork and Clare, obviously, as it always is, the first meeting between the sides since the All-Ireland final last July. And Limerick playing against Galway in the Gaelic grounds as well. So it should still be a decent enough weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thanks very much for having me on again. Really appreciate it. And apologies to people who don't like Arsenal. So it might be turning off because of that. But yeah, no, not as many games this weekend. Might not be the worst thing in the world in a way. There's been a lot of action over the last while with obviously the hurling and the getting used to the new rules in football, and obviously Hockey and the ladies football crack as well. So do you know what? Maybe a weekend of just not too many games might not be the worst thing. But like you said, there's still some cracking games there. So looking forward to it.
Definitely so, yeah. Before we get into the games, there is one story in the Weekly Gaelic Games, and this story only just came in before coming on air, and it's a story that's flamed up again. Cork and Park are nowhere, because just in the last few hours, I've really a tweet from Fintan O'Toole from the 42 here. Park Esler Newry will now host Antrim and Armagh, the Ulster Senior Football Championship quarter-final on Saturday, April 12th. Ulster GA stated, in reaching this decision, the committee sympathised with Antrim GA's situation, which reiterates the need for Casement Park to be redeveloped as a matter of urgency. So just so everybody's in the clear about the story and things like that, Cork Park was the rightful venue for this game because Antrim got home advantage against Armagh. The stadium can only hold about 3,000 to 4,000 people in terms of stand capacity and all that. So Ulster GA wanted to move this game away from Cork Park to somewhere like a Derry or a Down. That has now transpired in the past few hours. The game is apparently going to be in Newry, but one of their players, former players, Paddy Cunningham, said on RT Radio recently that the Antrim players and the Antrim management, if the game wasn't going to be in Cork Park, then they were going to forfeit the game. They weren't going to play the game whatsoever. But then there is the added thing to this as well, that if Antrim forfeit the game, they could risk being expelled from the Tailteann Cup this year as well. So a lot to pack in there, Liam. The game, first of all, confirmed a Cork Ulster GA for Park Esler Newry. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I suppose a couple of weeks ago, I remember Neil McManus was on the Sunday game, or League Sunday, and he said himself that the game probably shouldn't go ahead in Cork Park, and a lot of people kind of were asking the question, if this was a hurling match, would he be saying this? And I kind of wondered that myself. Like, look, I understand that there's only 3,000-4,000 that Cork Park can hold, and obviously with Armagh winning the All-Ireland last year, there's going to be a lot of Armagh people that will want to go to the games, and they'll all have season tickets and they'll be disappointed. But for me, look, it's exactly like the New Bridge or Nowhere that Kildare had with Mayo. There was it 2018 they had it, and for me, Kildare did the right thing. They stood their ground. They got their game played there, and it was the absolutely right decision. I think this is very bad decision by Ulster GA. I think Antrim have every right to be hosting the game. They have every right to host the All-Ireland champions, and that would look. Let's be fair and honest. Armagh will win the game. There's not any question about that. Regardless of where it's played, and when it's played, realistically, Armagh will beat Antrim and fairly convincingly. But for me, if the team's drawn out first, they should get home advantage. They should be allowed to play their game in Cork Park. And like I said, if this was a hurling matter, I have no doubt the game would be in Cork Park. If it was against, I don't know, let's just say Clare, because they won the Ireland last year, it would be played in Cork Park. So I don't see why this couldn't be. Expulsion from the Tailteann Cup, I think that's a bit much. I think that's taking it a bit too far. They're standing their ground, and they have every right to do so. So for me, I have no issue with them doing that whatsoever. Bringing it down, I mean, look, they'll get more seats, but for me, not really a fan of it. I think if you've been drawn out first and you're you're expected to have home advantage. You should be given home advantage, and like you never know, maybe just a bit of home support could even just give them a small bit of a lift as well. They'd be more used to it than, say Armagh would be. Armagh wouldn't, be generally seen to play there very often. So for me, in terms of exposure from the Tailteann Cup, a bit much. It just doesn't need to happen. And in terms of decision made, I don't agree with it.
I don't think many people would agree with it, to be fair. And the expulsion for the Tailteann Cup, that was only speculated and things like that. But that is the likely scenario if Antrim refused to play the game point blank. But what do you think, if you were an Antrim player or Andy McAtee, the manager right now, what would you do in this situation? Would you not play the game, or would you just play the game in Park Esther, or would you stand your ground like you have been doing over the last few weeks?
I think stand your ground. I mean, look, you don't. They're in an awkward situation now because they haven't got what they wanted, and that is a shame. But I suppose, even though it could lead to wider conflicts and wider implications, and it could expel them potentially, whether that be true or not, but there'd be further consequences along the line. I think they're absolutely right to stand their ground, to basically say, no, we don't. We're not moving. And look, if they decide in the end to play the game and go ahead with it and say, right, we've done all we can, there's not much we can do about it now, we just have to get on with it, then fair enough. I think either way, whatever decision they decide to make, I'll say fair enough. Like either way, it's either there's not much you could do now, you just got to get on and play the game and hope for the best, or you say, no, we said from all along, it's Cork Park or nowhere, we're not playing the game if it's not in Antrim. And yeah, stand your ground, I think, wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But look, that's up for them to decide, and whatever they do, I think, I can see both perspectives.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a very, very tough situation. Obviously, it's a small ground in Cork Park, but Antrim, they were drawn out of the hat first. They have the right to home advantage. They should, I think, probably stand their ground as well. But it's a sticky situation. Obviously, they didn't, as you said there, they didn't get what they wanted. The game's in Park Esther. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the next 2 weeks. Will they move on? Will they stand their ground even more? We'll have to see, but it's going to be a difficult situation for all parties in the next few weeks. But the decision has been made, so I guess you could credit Ulster GA in a way that the decision has been made, but obviously it's a decision that will anger a lot of people up and down the country, not just in Antrim, obviously. But we'll get into the action now. We'll get into the hurling in Division 1A this weekend, and starting off with the game on Sunday at 3:15 on TG Carr, the main event this weekend in Zimmer Biomet, Cusack Park in Ennis. Clare fans, correct me if I'm wrong on that pronunciation there. It's the new sponsor for Cusack Park there. But Clare will play Cork in the Allianz Hurling League Division 1A on Sunday at 3:15 on TG Carr. I know Clare beat Limerick last weekend, Liam. They looked pretty good. They kind of saved themselves in terms of fighting relegation somewhat. But they kind of have to back it up with another win here, because they have 2 more games left against Cork this game, obviously this weekend, and in Thurles against Tipperary in round 7 as well. So you would imagine Clare have to win this game. Even though they beat Limerick, a very good win last weekend, they have to go on and win this game and back it up if they have any chance of staying up.
Yeah, and I think first of all, Munster GA, if Ulster GA are changing grounds of football matches, I think Munster GA needs to change that name. I'm not a fan of that name whatsoever. Yeah, no, look, it's a massive game. It's quite ironic that Clare could go into this game already relegated if results don't go their way. Like if Limerick beat Galway and if Kilkenny beat Tipperary, then that's Clare gone. That's Wexford gone, I believe, as well. So it literally could just turn in, well, not a nothing game, but it could just turn into just a real, like, I don't know, a bit of a damp squib in a way. But I suppose for the time being, look, they're not gone. And like you said, it was a much needed win last weekend. But I'd say more than the win. I'd say Brian Lohan would have been fairly peed off after the performance against Wexford. I listened to it on the radio, and by all accounts, Clare were not at the races whatsoever. Wexford were so much better. They were hungrier for the ball. There was no bite from them. And then last weekend, it was the complete opposite. They looked so much better. Limerick started off stronger last weekend, and then Clare came into the game. They finished the half stronger, finished the game stronger as well. Obviously, look, Tony Kelly, there is a debate around the red card. Should he have been sent off? Was it? Look, it wasn't intentional. We know that. I still have a feeling that he probably was very lucky to stay on the pitch. But look, if you take that aside from that, he was terrific in around the middle of the pitch as well. He got 3 very nice points as well. few occasions when, I mean, if there's one man you don't want to have a shot free 60 yards out, it's Tony Kelly, you know. And they had Adam Hogan kind of back in last weekend, Conor Lean back in their natural positions, and they played very, very well as well. So I'd say Brian Lohan just more than anything wanted a performance, and John Conlon even kind of said it himself on TG Cahir after the match that we needed a performance, you know, whatever about the result, we needed a performance just to lift ourselves and get ourselves ready for the Munster Championship going up against the likes of Limerick and Cork, and obviously now Tipperary, and I suppose look, Waterford when they get all their best players back and get a bit of a squad going again, you know, so because there's no given game in Munster whatsoever. So, but no, I still don't think Clare though will want to go down to Division 1B. I mean, there's a lot of implications for that, from gate receipts, people going to the matches, and actual general interest, TV listings. So I still feel like Clare, if they're not gone by the time this game throws in on Sunday afternoon, then they'll absolutely go to the nail. And like you said, they'll want it back. It's no good beating Limerick and then going losing to Cork at the same time. You know, you want to back it up. Cork have, you know, not had the best of records in recent times down in Kilkenny Park. I can remember even the game 2 years ago. Was it Davy Fitzgerald got that last minute score, you know, that essentially nearly knocked Cork out. Or I know he lost to Limerick the next game, but essentially knocked G out and kept Clare all the way to a Munster final. So, you know, there's a bit of history there. But I am looking forward to this game, though. I think it's going to be a very interesting encounter. Obviously, Cork got a great win last weekend over Kilkenny. And while I'm here, my deepest condolences to the Ryan family as well. Very, very sad occasion. And, you know, I was actually more amazed and more impressed by the fact that Pat was there at the game, and, you know, he did all the interviews and he went about his business, and it's a really sad time for him. The people associated with Sarsfield's GEA, Cork GEA, so my condolences to him. And while I'm here as well, Ben Keneally, who played cornerback for us at the weekend against Westmeath, he left his grandfather's funeral early just to go play for us against Westmeath on Sunday morning, and he jokingly said, you know, his grandfather would have killed him if he didn't play. So, you know, it's quite ironic that he says that, but yeah, just my deepest condolences to Keneally family as well. But yeah, no, Cork put on a performance last weekend. I was very, very impressed with Diarmuid Healy. I've been impressed with him for a while. You know, I saw him kind of firsthand in 2022, 2023 playing for the under-20s, and I thought he's big, he's strong. He kind of reminds me a lot of Seamus Harnedy, you know. He's got a great strike at the ball as well. What did he get? 1-5 last weekend, you know. And I don't know who said it early on the week, and I can't remember if it was Seamus's podcast or it could have been the RT podcast, but someone was saying, why can't it be Harnedy and Diarmuid Healy on the wings this year? I know that could be hard on Decky Dalton, but, you know, question could be asked there. He's energetic, he's young, he's strong, he's a good strike at the ball. Patrick Horgan had a good game last weekend, you know. Hopefully, you know, from Cork's point of view, he can keep that up again this weekend. So Tim O'Mahony's been playing well in midfield. Him and Darragh Fitzgibbon have a very good partnership. Owen Downey and Robert Downey, the two of them, you know, I mean, they're going to be Cork's fullback and centre back, you know, spine now for the next number of years. There's no question about that. So yeah, no, it's setting itself up to be a very, very intriguing game. I do have a feeling, though, given Cork's momentum at the moment, aside from the Tipperary result, which they didn't even play too bad in that game either, they've been solid enough in the league. I think Cork will actually come away with a win from Ennis this weekend.
And it's interesting you say that Cork will win in Ennis. So just having a quick look at the table here. So the situation is, we'll get onto these games later, but if Kilkenny beat Tipperary and Limerick beat Galway, then by the time it gets to Clare, Clare have to win to have any chance of staying up, because Clare will be on 2 points, Kilkenny will be on 6, Limerick will be on 5, Cork will be on 5 as well. So if they were to lose to Cork, their next nearest team would be Limerick, and they're 3 points off them. They have 1 game left to play, Clare, and they'll be gone by then. So, as you said there, they don't want to be relegated to Division 1B. It's a big objective for Clare not to go down, I suppose. They dug themselves into a bit of a hole, obviously losing to Limerick, but it was a good performance against Limerick last weekend. But even if they do go down, to be fair, I know Cork are decent enough for themselves. They performed, I would say, not at their best against Kilkenny, but performed well enough, and it could be enough for them to get into this game in Ennis and get them over the line. But that performance by Clare last weekend against Limerick, there was a lot of positives out of that game, wasn't there? I know Tony Kelly probably should have been sent off, or he should have been after that foul on Adam English, but he was absolutely excellent in that game. I thought David Fitzgerald at stages was brilliant as well. And without Shane O'Donnell in there, it seemed like that Clare team still gelled gelled well together, in fairness, after their 4th game of the league campaign. So there is a bit of positivity for Brian Lohan, even if they do go down in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, even if they did go down, like, I mean, let's just say for retrospective, for what we're probably expecting, it'll be Wexford that go down, and then you might have, say, Dublin in Division 1B, just going by hypothetically at the moment, the way the league is at the moment. Like, there's still good games for them next year in the league. Obviously, I know there might be some other games that, like, they'd be looking at going, you know, okay, well, they're not Kilkenny's, they're not Cork's, they're not Limerick's, but they'll still get some good games next year. But next year. But like you said, yeah, absolutely. Like, they had some very good performers last weekend. They needed a bounce back after Wexford. You know, if they'd gone in to the Limerick game and performed how they did against Wexford, then it would have been Limerick would have hockeyed them. And even at the start of the game, when Limerick were building up some bit of an early lead, and Aaron Gillan was nearly on song as well. Quilligan had to pull off a couple of saves in that game as well. Some good saves as well. There was one after like 20 seconds from Shane O'Brien, like, you know, so he was straight into the action immediately. It could have been, I thought it was going to be a tough afternoon for them, but no, they settled. And like you said, Ed McCarthy was on song with Freeze. Tony Kelly, he did what Tony Kelly just, you know, does not naturally. They still have a very, very, and especially with Shane O'Donnell's news as well, that he's going to be out basically for the year. Like, they still have a very, very strong forward line. They still have a very, very strong team, and they're getting the gist of their team back now that kind of won the All-Ireland last year. So, yeah, plenty of positives for them. And look, even, I suppose, yeah, if they did get relegated, or obviously if they did lose this weekend or drew or something like that, if they can just get in another, you know, 70 minutes plus of good hurling, good hard-hitting hurling, and got themselves ready, because aren't they playing, isn't this fixture the first round of Munster? Do you know?
It is, I think it is. It's in part, or no, it's in Ennis, actually.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
just to even get a little bit of an edge on Cork as well, you know, welcoming them down, because I mean, I think that's going to be a fascinating game, the first round of the Munster Championship, the previous All-Ireland final. Like, I mean, it doesn't get much better than that, but just to even gain a bit of an early advantage. But at the same time, I suppose you don't also want to show your hand too early as well, you know. But no, I'm intrigued by the game. I think, though, Cork, like you said, it wasn't the most amazing performance against Kilkenny, but it was enough to get the win. And look, I still think they're going well at the moment, and I think it'll be a close game, but I just think Cork, with the momentum they have at the moment and the form of some of the players. I mean, Shane Barrett for me is one of the best, if not one of the best centre forwards in the country. He's playing out of his skin the last 15 months. So for me, I think Cork might just nick it.
You talked about Cork there, and a few of the names that really pop into the brain. Obviously, look at the match program against Kilkenny. Obviously, I was at the game in the media box, and very, very impressed with Gerard Healy in that game. Obviously, the goal he took. Even look at the replay of it, he's still a lot of work to do from that position, and he banged it in bottom corner. Brilliant finish by him. Micheál Mullins probably didn't have, well, he went off injured against Kilkenny with a bit of a niggle, but to be fair to him in the first few games, especially against Tip, I thought he was excellent from wing back. The man originally from Whitechurch, but he switched to Glen Rovers in recent weeks. Then you look at the midfield, Fitzgibbon and O'Mahony doing well. Kieran Joyce, you were saying that the two Downies could be full back and centre back for a long time. Kieran Joyce looked like he'd be centre back for a long time, but obviously he got a bit of an injury. Downey went to centre back, but Kieran Joyce done brilliant at wing back for me. I know he went off injured again against Kilkenny, but he's done brilliant. Niall O'Leary's had a bit of bite there. Decky Dalton at wing forward is always good. Robbie O'Flynn actually as a full forward was an interesting choice, I would say, by the Cork management. But to be fair, it did work well at some stages. He didn't perform to his best, but he's coming back to his full fitness, which is always a good sign, because Robbie O'Flynn's an excellent hurler, obviously. You did have Brian Hayes, Patrick Horgan. You still had Jack O'Connor on the bench, who came on and showed a bit of bright sparks. Luke B came on and did a bit of work as well. Cormac O'Brien from Newtown Chandler did look very lively when he came on as well. So there were positives for Cork, and there is an argument as well. The first part of the league, possibly against Limerick, yes, the tenacity was there, but maybe not the performance level. Neither was there against Tipperary. It seemed like both kind of elements came back against Kilkenny. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and actually, I completely forgot about Joycey as well. Like, he's a towering unit of a player. You know, even just seeing him in person a couple of times, I've seen Cork playing against us last year and playing in the All-Ireland final. Like, he is a big, big presence. Like, he's not someone you won't want a small fella marking him, anyways. That's for sure. But like, he's good enough to play centre back or wing back. You know, like, I was very impressed with him last year at wing back, and I think that it's a very strong half back line they have. Micheál Mullins, he was excellent against Tipperary, I thought. Maybe not at his best last weekend, but look, he is still young enough. He's still learning his trade in a way of playing at intercounty hurling, especially at this level where it's not like 1B in a way for someone like Cork, where you'll get one or two good games, but then you might have some other games where you're like, okay, we don't need to worry too much. It's week on week on week in Division 1A. You're playing Limerick, Wexford, Kilkenny, or you're playing next week Tipperary. It's non-stop. So, but I still think Micheál Mullins, he's wing back suits him absolutely. See, at the moment, Tim O'Mahony for me he's doing too good in midfield to move him. And I mean, you're just never moving Darragh Fitzgibbon out of midfield. He's absolute just stalwart there. So he's going to have to make wing back his spot now for the year. And I think he's absolutely capable of doing that. He's great at running with the ball. He's a good striker of the ball as well. Very quick on his feet. So kind of all the good elements are coming back into Cork, I think, at the moment, especially last weekend. Look, just remember as well, it was emotional. It was an emotional last game last weekend as well for, the Cork panel probably more than anybody, because, obviously Pat's the coach and all that. So they would have wanted to put on a performance for him and just get a win from him, just to give him some bit of positivity. So I think this weekend will be a bit more of a controlled performance to a degree, if I can say it like that, even though it is away from home. But you've performed well away from home this year. Ironically, I think you've performed better away from home than you have at home, and that's even with. I think you performed better against Tipperary when you lost than you did against Kilkenny when you won. Like if you'd performed like you did against Tipperary against Kilkenny, I think the scoreline would have been much bigger. So, but no, I still think Cork will have too much this weekend. Clare would absolutely put it up to them. Could be a 3-4 point game coming down the home stretch. But like I said, Robbie O'Flynn, interesting enough at full forward. Interesting enough. I don't know if that's going to be an absolute long-term choice. I don't know. Would you agree or?
No, I don't think so. No, at all. But then again, like Decky Dalton's playing so well at 10. You still have Seamus Hardy to come back, and you mentioned Hardy and Healy on the wing. Like Healy, the way he's playing at the moment, that performance against Kilkenny, you can't drop him. Like Robbie O'Flynn at full forward. Then again, you have Alan Connolly to come back into the team. He wasn't even on the panel against Kilkenny. Even in the back line, I know you had said Micheál Mullins could make his position his own at number 7, but Mark Coleman still has to come back as well. Like George Millerick has performed well at 4 as well. I suppose, like I said this at the start of the year, maybe on Aaron's show, Gaelic Games Fan TV as well, on the Cork season preview, the amount of players that are campaigning for these positions is the positive for Pat Ryan. It's a really good headache to have, because like if George Millerick gets an injury, you could just bring in Sean O'Donoghue, or if he's fit. If he's unfit, you could bring in Cormac O'Brien. If Micheál Mullins is injured, you could bring in Mark Coleman. If Alan Connolly's injured like he is right now, you could try out Robbie O'Flynn at full forward, or you could try even Decky Dalton at full forward. Like I think that's the positive for Pat, really, when all these players are performing so well. Like they're bringing their underage form into senior form, and it's a brilliant sight to see. Like in the past, you'd see some Cork players, they look so good at club level, but they just can't transfer that form into intercounty level. But you see the likes of Dermot Healy last Saturday, absolutely excellent for Eamon Kelly at club level, brilliant for UCC at college level. And he's definitely well up to intercounty level. I know he probably needs more bulk, but we could say that about a lot of players. Sure, we could say that about Adam Screeney from your own Offaly. Like he's a very skillful player. And we could say that about every other player that has skill and things like that. That will come, but it's very, very positive for Cork that all these players are putting their hand up for selection, really. And it's a great headache for Pat to have, really.
And I still think that Jack Leahy is someone who's very unlucky not to be. Yeah. Panel. I've seen him for Cork under-20s and for Imokilly and for UL Fitzgibbon. Like, I'm amazed he's not in there. Now, look, like you said, you've a lot of options. You can't pick everybody, and especially on a match day, you can't pick everybody to either start or to come on off the bench. But for me, he's one player who I thought was going to be a certain man. You have Ben Cunningham there as well, who's not on the panel either. So, yeah, what was it? Was the Seamus said the other day? You've too many players to pick from.
Yeah. That's the thing, yeah. Geez, there's the amount of forwards here. Like reading the forwards off the programme anyway against Kilkenny, you had The forwards that were on the bench were Jack Hallan, Robbie Cotter, and Jack O'Connor. Like Robbie Cotter has been excellent in club form for Blackrock as well. Like Daniel Hogan can't even make the panel, and he's been excellent for SARS as well. Like there's so many names. You mentioned Jack Leahy as well. So good at underage, so good for UCC, so good for Emo Kelly. He's and Dungorney, his club as well. To be fair, his numbers are up nearly all the time, and he just can't get into this team. And then you have the added bonus of Hoggy as well, who, to be fair, he scored 10 points, 3 from play against Kilkenny, which isn't bad at all. So there's a lot of names to be named, and they'll talk about it even more, Liam. I'm much more positive about Cork hurling than I was a few years ago, and say it like that. And I agree with you at the point of Shane Barrett, actually. The form he's on, like even from last year, the pace that he has, pace to burn, he's an absolutely excellent hurler and skillful hurler at that as well. And you have more players to come back. Conor Lehan and Seamus. Conor Lehan, another player who's injured, still to come back as well. It's a lot of options.
Yeah, a lot of great options. It's actually nearly unfair, to be honest. But no, like you said, you'd be daft not to be a lot more positive about Cork now than you would have been certainly a couple of years ago. And I think Pat Ryan is the type of man who I think can deliver an All Ireland for Cork. Certainly, I think he's more likely maybe now to deliver an All Ireland than maybe John Myler was or Kingston was. So, well, that's just my opinion. But yeah, no, things are looking well for Cork at the moment. And yeah, I mean, for me, this year's Munster final will be Cork and Limerick. There's no question about that. And sure, if somebody said to me right now, the All Ireland final, Cork and Limerick, or maybe Clare, or throwing maybe a Kilkenny from Leinster, maybe, you'd be going, yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens in the All Ireland, obviously, and the All Ireland predictions will be coming, obviously. But in terms of this league game, I agree with Liam. I'm going to go for Cork winning this as well, and potentially Clare could be down. But we'll look at the predictions in the other two games in Division 1A now. We'll start off with the other game on Sunday of Kilkenny against Tipperary at 1:15 on TG Carr. This is a UP MC Nolan Park. I'm struggling with the sponsors. I really am. It's ridiculous at this stage. But you have to mention them. You have to mention them for the money and all that. But Kilkenny against Tipperary. This is a home game for Kilkenny. Kilkenny currently on 4 points. Tipperary on 6 after 3 wins out of a possible 4. Tip are in very positive form at the moment. Kilkenny were, I would say, a bit flat in Páirc Uí Chaoimh against Cork with Super Value Páirc Uí Chaoimh. That's another sponsor there. But to be fair, like TJ Reid coming onto the pitch, that was a positive for Kilkenny. Owen Coley still knocking about there. But yeah, it's an interesting game, this one.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't love a Kilkenny tip game? You know, it's like Clare Limerick last weekend. There's just going to be punches. There's going to be hatred there. There's going to be booing. There's referees probably going to have to. I mean, Brian Gavin probably still has nightmares over that getting absolutely belted in the nose. Was it 2012 or was it 2011 final? But yeah, no. Again, this one intrigues me a lot because obviously I've been sort of let down by Kilkenny in the league so far. I'll be frank and honest about that. I've not been too impressed by them. I wasn't too impressed by them against G. Even in the game against Wexford, like usually a Kilkenny team, like I was watching that game and like Wexford had a lot of lads that went down injured. They had Nolly Chin on the day. A lot, obviously, the likes of Lee McGovern and all them, Matt O'Hanlon retiring as well. So they were really down bad. Like Wexford didn't score a point for play against Kilkenny in the first half when they played each other. I think Kilkenny were winning 2-10 to 4 points at half time. Teams of the past would have scored another 2-10 and absolutely just put them to bed. Whereas, I mean, look, it was controlled, I suppose, but at the same time, I don't know, there was just a little bit of a spark missing from them that day. And then, I mean, I didn't see the Galway game. I was probably at an Offaly game or something like that. But from what I've heard, they weren't great against Galway either. They beat Clare, but again, I think it was like played well, but nothing that's gonna like make you jump out of your seat. So I don't know. And obviously they had the Limerick game that'll be on next weekend because it was postponed. But yeah, no, they've kind of gone about their business. They've won 2, they've lost 2. It's really kind of the definition of just mid-season so far. You know, if they could pick up a win against Tipperary this weekend, who, like you said, they've been brilliant in the league so far. There's no point denying that. And even look, I know obviously there's the Liam Cahill syndrome of is this team going to die out in the championship, or obviously against Limerick, when you look back on it, like Tip had basically mostly their championship team out against Limerick, who definitely did not have their championship team out. But they still competed a lot better against Limerick than what I expected, even compared to last number of years. They competed so much better against them. So I think there's plenty of positives for Tipperary. They'll certainly go into this game thinking they absolutely can win this. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And there's even a couple of key battles I'm actually kind of intrigued by. I mean, Seamus Keneally, if he stays at full forward, going up against Hugh Lawler that's a big test for him. One that he's going to have to be well prepared for, because on his day, Hugh Lawler is arguably, I would say, the best fullback in the country without a shadow of a doubt. Darren McCarthy going up against Mikey Butler sounds very, very tasty, and like Butler is a brilliant man marker. McCarthy obviously is a dead ball specialist, but even against you, was he get 5 points against you from play? He's great off the ball as well. He's a great striker of the ball, great at making runs as well. So yeah, Butler, if it is Butler to be marking him, he'll have his handful, but that'll be very intriguing. And then, Jake Morris marking either one of Mikey Carey or David Blanchfield. It'd probably be Mikey Carey given the last couple of games, but either one of those. Stopping Jake Morris will not be simple. He's a player that I rate very, very highly, and it doesn't matter what position he's in, whether it's corner forward or centre forward, he's lethal both off his left and his right. So either one of those Kilkenny centre backs will have to work cut out for them. But no, it's going to be a fascinating game, especially in Nolan Park. It always seems to nearly bring out the best in these two. Was it 2014 they played that mad game where they both scored 5 goals each? They love playing each other, especially. Well, I don't know whether Tip like playing them in Nolan Park. They don't have to win there, but it's great for neutrals watching it anyways. But and I think Kilkenny are due to have one big performance before the league, and I feel this will be the perfect game to get them up for. Similar enough to what Clare had with Limerick last weekend. This is the perfect game to get Kilkenny's season kind of rolling and get them started. So, and look, it'll also pretty much guarantee survival for them as well. I don't think they will get relegated, but just to have that guarantee, to have that, I suppose, assurance that, they're not going down. And look, they might be looking at going, why can't we have a Kilkenny Tipperary League final? So, and I actually think Kilkenny will actually win this weekend. Now, would I be surprised if Tip won? No. I'd nearly be close enough to calling it even a draw. But I just think Kilkenny are due a massive win. They're due a massive performance. And I think no better team to get Derek Ling's side that extra bit of ambition and that extra bit of grit about them than their neighbours.
It's an interesting pick considering, I don't know, I watched the highlights back at the Kilkenny Cork game, and after Kilkenny struck his last point, a brilliant point by the way, in Páirc Uí Chaoimh last week, he actually picked up an injury and he's got 10 points from play for Kilkenny. Would he be a loss, do you feel, at centre forward for this game?
Yeah, and Harry Shine went off injured as well early in that. And he's someone who I do rate very highly as well. I like the look of him as well. Just seen him a couple of times last year for the Kilkenny under-20s. I think he's a very, very good player. Yeah, Kilkenny will be a massive miss, but they do have TJ Reid back. And I know a lot of people even during the week were saying, like, is he going to be someone who's going to be more of a just full forward from now on? And I know TJ is 37, and I know the legs are not there as they used to be before, but he's still TJ Reid. If there's going to be anyone you want to be replacing Kilkenny at centre forward right now, it is TJ Reid. And like you said, this could be the perfect game for him just to get a performance out of him, because look, it was his first game last weekend back, I believe, wasn't it, against Shees? So there was going to be a small bit of rustiness there. Like he's not played a championship game since Ballyhale's defeat to Thomastown last year. So, and like that was a while back. So, I feel if he could get even just 50, 60 minutes under his belt, and like I said, you have Mossy Keown there as well, who could easily slot into forward as well. I don't think it's John Donnelly. He's not back yet.
I don't think he's back. No, I thought Stephen Donnelly and played very well. In fairness, he got a goal against Cork. Mossy Keown's the top scorer for play in the league as well with 212. Could potentially slot into centre forward there.
Yeah, Mossy Keown's a player who I like a lot. I felt like alongside Donnelly, if there was like a Leinster GA awards last year, them two and probably Bleach in were the 3 best players in Leinster last year without a shadow of a doubt. And even with the All-Stars, I feel like Mossy Keown and John Donnelly would have been the 2 that you would have said, well, if there was going to be 2 from Leinster, they would have been it. So he's absolutely someone that could slot in there. I still think that Donnelly is someone who, not John Donnelly, Stephen Donnelly.
Stephen Donnelly,
yeah. I still think he's someone who could be better operated in around middle of the field. You know, and that's only just judging by what I saw from Thomastown, or even just not even in corner forward, maybe even wing forward. You know, I could be wrong saying that, but I just think he'd be so much better, maybe in around there. But look, I could be wrong. I could be wrong saying that. Jordan Malloy has played well in midfield. I think, did he get 3 points last weekend against G?
He did, yeah.
Well enough. So, and like I was impressed with him at wing back a couple of years ago for O'Loughlin Gales. He really shone for them. So yeah, no, for me, if you're going to replace anyone at centre forward for Kilkenny, and you're looking at TJ Reid, or like I said, could be Mossy Keown. It'd be interesting to see what what direction he goes in.
Definitely so, yeah. And you look at the sort of players like David Blanchfield and Mikey Carey discussion. Who do you play centre back? Who do you play at right wing back? The last day was Mikey Carey at centre back, and even Paddy Deegan at wing back. Like, it's still the serious half back line there. Tommy Walsh, Hugh Lawler, Mikey Butler, Owen Murphy and goal. Like, you look at the match programme and all that, there are some very experienced players in that Kilkenny team. You look at this Tip team and you think they're very much in form. Like Jake Morris, as you mentioned, excellent form. Shawnee Kennedy scored a wicked goal against Limerick, obviously. You have players like Dylan Walsh, who got a goal against Cork and is one of the top scorers to play overall in the league as well. Garrett O'Connor has done well for UL and for Tipperary over the past few weeks. You have other players there as well that are performing for Tip, such as Willie Connors and Jason Ford, to be fair to Craig Morgan, Alan Tynan. So, but is there an argument that this Tip team, compared to Kilkenny, are a bit raw in a way? But I could be clutching at straws there, but what do you think?
Possibly could be, and even names like Oisin O'Donoghue as well. He's someone who's still only just getting used to playing at this level as well. So in a way, they probably could be. It sort of feels like it's a test of old versus new in a way, you know. And I'm not trying to be too disrespectful to Kilkenny saying that, but they have a lot more elder statesmen in the team. Like you said, even Paddy Deegan's been around for a good number of years as well. And he's someone that you could easily just throw back into centre back as well. And in my opinion, there'd be no issue with that. I wouldn't put him on Jake Morris though, because Deegan is the only thing is Deegan would be someone who, if he goes forward, Morris has to follow him, or someone has to follow him, because he's a deadly strike on him as well, and he's able to pick out a pass as well. But yeah, no, I think there is a bit more grit about Kilkenny, but I suppose just because they've been around a bit longer. This Tipperary team will come around over the next couple of years. I'm certainly a lot more optimistic about Tipperary this year than I was last year. You know, even though at the same time last year they got to the league semi-final, there wasn't really anything in me that was screaming Tipperary will win the Munster title or they'll be serious All-Ireland contenders. I wasn't too convinced by them. I think they were still having to try and get rid of some of the older guard that they had in there. But yeah, and even like you mentioned, Alan Tynan, he's someone who I've been very, very impressed with this year. I think he's playing some of his best hurling. I know it's still early in the year, but he looks nearly rejuvenated, nearly in midfield, sort of centre forward, half forward line in that role. So, but yeah, no, I still think Kilkenny might just find a way. You know, like you said, that little bit of experience might come in handy for them. But look, at the same time, this could be the type of game where Tipperary say, we need a big performance as well. And like it's always the same rule in Kilkenny and Tipperary, isn't it? You know, if you could beat one or the other, then it's like an All-Ireland final for them. You know, it's like all the Ulster teams playing football against each other. It's an All-Ireland final in a way, no matter if it's challenge match or an All-Ireland final. So
yeah, I'm going to disagree with you in terms of the prediction. I'm going to go for Tipperary just to kind of break their duck a bit against Kilkenny. I've been very impressed with Liam Cahill's side so far, but obviously the argument is, can they transfer that form into the Munster Championship? You look at the last game in Division 1A as well, Limerick against Galway, in the Gaelic grounds on TG Carr on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. You were saying off air, Liam, you are going to this game. So interesting enough in terms of a Limerick point of view. Disappointing result against Clare. I'd like to look at the rule book anyway. Dermot Burns is suspended for this game, so he won't be available at wing back here after the red card against Clare. But you still have players inexperienced like Keane Lynch. Aaron Gallan looked at flying for, even though he didn't take some chances, he still looked very, very lively against Clare and all that as well. I thought, I don't know, was Adam English going to be fit for this game? Aidan O'Connor did very well after coming on for Limerick. But Galway, they're slowly improving over the last few games. They got a win against Westford, probably not convincing enough, but still have some lethal players like Anthony Burns, who's having the form of his life so far for both club and county. So an interesting game as well, this one.
Yeah, I'll be at this game Saturday night anyways, and I'm actually really looking forward to it. I was meant to be at the Kilkenny Limerick game a couple of weeks ago, obviously that got postponed. But no, I'm actually looking forward to it. if you'd have said to me at the start of the season, where will these two teams be, I'd have actually probably predicted Limerick to be in Galway's position and Galway to be in Limerick's position. Just you be thinking Limerick, the panel they have, much like Yee, to be honest with you, the panel they have, the players they have to come back, the lads that they're breeding into the panel at the moment. I mean, Patrick O'Donovan, Aidan O'Connor, Adam English, they've tried out Eddie Stokes at wing forward as well, Ethan Hurley, just some of these players who they're trying out at the moment. It's actually Jason Gallan in goals as well, with Nicky Quaid out as well. So, and like they've grown Hegarty to come back. Tom Morrissey was back at the weekend. He does need game time. There's no point sugarcoating that. He wasn't great last weekend, but it is his first game in a while. I think he was travelling for the last number of months as well, so he'll need a bit of match sharpness. Kyle Hayes is obviously out at the moment as well. Like, I mean, Declan Hannon is not there either. I think they're announcing the team in a few minutes. Might have been announced now actually, but yeah, they have a serious panel of players, like you said. Like Adam English is a player who I'm a big fan of, and I certainly think he's someone who can nail down a midfield spot. But Kyle Hayes is actually starting. He's back. So he's actually back at centre back. Mike Casey's there. Colin Coughlin, captain UL to the Fitzgibbon as well. There was a nice piece done by Gigi Caher during the week as well, where they followed him around UL as well. Hopefully they didn't catch me. The campus, I hope they didn't. I probably looked rough, as I do now. But yeah, Tom Morrissey's actually starting. Aidan O'Connor's starting. Colin O'Neill is back starting as well. That's a massive boost for them that he was back playing last weekend as well. Didn't think he had his best game, but it's crucial that he gets some game time into his legs. Grode Hegarty is named back on the bench as well. And like I said, Aaron Gallan, he didn't take some of his goal chances at the weekend, but I mean, it's Aaron Gallan at the end of the day. He's going to pop up. I didn't think he had his best season last season, but for me, the All-Ireland semi-final against Cork is where we saw the real Aaron Gallan. He was absolutely terrific. If Limerick were to win that game against you last year, he was going to be the big reason why. He could just create a chance out of nothing, and I mean, 9 times out of 10, when he's taking a shot, it's either going over the bar or it's going into the net. The power he has behind his strike is simply outrageous. So yeah, and look, Jimmer Burns is out this weekend, but like I said, they've Sean Finn back in at cornerback, they've Barry Nash out at wing back, Colin Coughlin, Kyle Hayes. Like, it's still a very, very strong half back line. Will O'Donoghue is actually in midfield beside Adam English. Cian Lynch has gone to centre forward. Sort of like Cork, you could just play all these players in so many different positions. You could move English to centre forward and Lynch back to midfield. Cathal O'Neill could go full forward if he had to. Aaron Gallan could go full forward. Aaron Gallan could go really any position in the forward line and there'd be no issue really. So and I mean, like, if David Reid to come off the bench, Peter Casey to come off the bench, Seamus Flanagan, like it's a stacked panel. It's a completely stacked panel. And in terms of Galway, yeah, Anthony Burns, I loved watching him against Clare. I thought he was outstanding. It was like a type of Dennis Bergkamp type against Newcastle kind of flick where he scored against Clare, which I really enjoyed watching. He just looks lively, and I've been kind of watching him the last couple of weeks going, where's this guy been the last number of years? Like, he wasn't, I don't think he was like a player that was like magnificent at like underage level or anything like that, but I sort of prefer this in a way, because like, in a way there was like, not that there was no expectations, but just someone who, like, you'd see maybe 15, 16-year-olds who are on development squads now, they're probably certain to get a trial at senior in a couple of years' time or whatever, or they're going to bring them in because they've been on these programs. But then they might tell the club player, oh, he's just a club player, oh, he might not be ready for this level. You never know until you bring them in. And he's bearing the fruits at the moment. And I mean, Conor Whelan, for me, on his day, is the best forward in the country, or one of the best forwards in the country. He's quick, he's athletic, he's strong. He's a great strike off his left, great strike off his right. He can drag a team out of absolutely nowhere. He could be just a game changer whenever he wants to be. I've been very impressed with Gavin Lee at centre back as well. I thought he might have been a bit too forward thinking to play in that role, but credit to him. I heard he was impressive against Kilkenny. He played well against Clare. I think he was marking Aidan McCarthy that night, and then McCarthy didn't do as well as you'd imagine he would. So yeah, Tierney Colleen's playing well at centre forward as well. So I do think Limerick, though, will just say, look, sort of like Kilkenny, get a win on Saturday evening. Not that they're not going to be relegated, but just so that I'd say John Kiley will be happy enough to say, right, okay, we might not get to the league final, but we've got a couple of wins on our belt. We're breeding in new players. And yeah, maybe mid-table, or obviously they're Wexford in the final round, I believe, do they? And if Wexford are relegated, I think they'll beat Wexford anyway. But especially if Wexford are to be relegated at that point, it becomes maybe a small bit easier for them. And sure, they could still target a league final. You never know. If they could beat Kilkenny as well next weekend, that'll be massive for them. So I don't think Limerick will have too many issues this weekend, but I don't think Galway will be too bad either. I think we'll see more of the Galway that played Limerick in the 2022 All-Ireland semi-final than the 2023 All-Ireland semi-final. So
yeah, Galway look very impressive already. They don't have a probably main scorer. Their best scorer is Anthony Burns with 3-4 at the moment, but I've counted they have 24 different scores, Galway, in about 4 games, which is, it's absolutely, I would say there's not a standout there, but there's a lot of spread around the Galway team. And Micheál Donoghue's trying out some new players and things like that, which is also a positive for Galway, definitely. And you look at Limerick, bringing in the likes of Aaron Gallan, Cian Lynch and all them, they don't have a big scores. I know Aaron Gallan is probably their biggest scorer, but he's only on 12 points at the moment. He's probably, like, you look at the Limerick team overall, and Dan Casey, Super Dan Casey, obviously mentioned a very good point last year when he compared Limerick to, say, a Wexford. Like, Wexford are so reliant on Conor McDonald, Roy O'Connor, Leachin. That's your three. With Limerick and with Galway right now, to be fair, there's a lot more spread across the team, which is a good sign for both sides. And there's a chance to build on it for both sides this weekend, no matter what the result.
Yeah, no, I think if you really want to be a top class team, you need scores spread out all over the pitch. And like Diarmaid Byrnes has been a massive key to that over the last number of years for Limerick. Like, what did he get? I think he got 7 points. Was it against was it Tipperary? Was it Tipperary? I think it was. He got like 7 points, like 3-4 from play, which is absolutely outrageous. Brendan Maher used to chip in with a couple of scores from wing back and centre back for Tipperary over the years. Keelan Kiley pulls in with a couple of scores for Offaly from centre back. You need, like, Mark Coleman, like you mentioned as well earlier, like, he's someone who, like, you give him any sort of space and he's popping the ball over the bar. So from any distance out, and sideline cuts especially as well are not too shabby either. But yeah, no, it's a great opportunity for both teams to sort of, I suppose, more so for Galway to see where they are than maybe Limerick. Limerick probably know where they are. I mean, let's be fair, they're, along with realistically Cork and Clare, they're probably going to be the favourites for the All-Ireland this year. And being realistic, if I was to call it now, I'd be saying it'd be a Cork Limerick All-Ireland final if I was to be a betting man at the moment. But yeah, no, listen, it's a great opportunity for some of the other lads as well to try and put their name in and say to either one of Micheál Donoghue or to John Kiley that, don't forget about me. I know you might have eyes on another lad, but don't forget about me. I'm still here.
Yeah, exactly. So are you going to say Limerick will edge this one, or do you think Galway might cause a shock here?
No, I could see Limerick winning this. It could be some like scoreline of like 123 to 19 points or something. Just like maybe somewhat competitive, but in the end, no real doubt about the final score.
Yeah, I'll probably go for Limerick to win that game as well. And maybe on the road to the league final, we'll have to see in the next few weeks. Look at Division 1B this weekend, and you have on Saturday, you have Dublin against Carlow in Parnell Park on Saturday at 6 p.m. The situation in Division 1B, like, Carlow have 3 games to go, and they're on 4 points at the moment. The max they could get is 10 points. For context, Waterford have 6 points at the moment in second place. So Carlow well at the promotion charge in this. I think Offaly are over the hills and far away, to be honest. In first place, you'll be delighted about that, Liam, I'm sure. Dublin probably need results this weekend in Parnell Park if they are to have any chance of getting a top 2 spot, really.
If Dublin don't pick up a win this weekend, then yeah, that's pretty much it, done for them. I feel like it might be done for them anyway, but just to have any sliver of hope, they just cannot afford to drop any more points. And I mean, they'll be looking back on the last couple of games they've had against both us and Waterford, and they'll be looking back going, how have we lost those 2 games? And whatever about our game, especially the Waterford game last weekend, they were in control of that game. Cian O'Sullivan was having an outstanding game before he had his unfortunate red card. And like, I mean, Donald Burke's been back. He's playing very well. I'm sort of surprised Sean Curry hasn't kind of gone back into the starting team. I thought he would have been given a start against Waterford last weekend. He's a player I like a lot, to be honest with you. He's very quick on his feet. He's a great striker of the ball, but maybe he might be back in this weekend. You never know. But yeah, I feel like at the start of the season, if you'd have said to both Peter Queally and, look, let's be fair, but a lot of us probably, and even myself included in some way, probably expected it to be Waterford and Dublin to be the top two in Division 1B. It was a matter of who's first and who's second, but if you'd said to either one of Peter Queally or Niall O'Callaghan, one of you is going up, one of you is not, who'd be the more disappointed to not go up? I feel like it would have been Peter Queally. I feel like Niall O'Callaghan will not be. He'll obviously be disappointed, but he won't be like I don't think he'd be losing sleep over not going up, because look, they'll still get some good games next year. Look, Carlow away next year for them, say, just for example, would be a very, very tough game. They never have an easy game down in Carlow. Nobody really does these days, really. You could have Clare and Wexford down there. They'd be two solid games to get as well. So especially against Wexford, Leinster rivals as well. They seem to have cracking games over the last number of years. Always seems to end in a draw as well, or is that just a conspiracy theory? I don't know. But yeah, no, for Dublin, it's simply must win. Otherwise, it's lights out for them. Sort of similar Carlow as well. I think if they don't win or if they draw, then that's essentially us up. But I think even then, just anything. I think that Antrim game will haunt them in a way, because they should have won that game. There was obviously question marks over whether the free at the end that Antrim got was an actual free, but when you look back on, like, they were 114 to 10 points up at one stage, and they had 7 and 8 point leads during the game. Like, they really should not have drawn that game. They should not have thrown that game away. So they'll come into this game with a bit of bite. They'll come into it, and it's also not in Croke Park; it's in Parnell Park as well. So it might actually suit Dublin maybe a bit more as well, because the hurlers have been more used to playing in Parnell Park over the years than Croke Park. I mean, you saw them last year against Kilkenny in Parnell Park. They should have beaten them. They get to Croke Park and the game was over after 10 minutes. So I feel like Parnell Park might suit the Dublin hurlers a bit more this weekend. But yeah, I don't think Dublin, though, I don't think we'll see them losing 3 games on the bounce. I think they were the better side than Offaly for the majority of the game. I think they were the better side than Waterford for the majority of the game, and they just threw them away over. Look, they have to improve their discipline. There's no doubt about that. They've had 3 red cards already this year, so they'll have to improve on that aspect. But if they can maintain the same level of performance as they have against both Offaly and Waterford, then for me, Dublin should have enough to get over the line. Because Carlow have some great players. Your Chris Nolans, your Marty Kavanaghs, your James Doyles, your Conor Keoghs. They're really, really good players, absolutely. But I still maintain, watching Carlow, I know it was the opening round, and you can't take too much from the opening round, but Carlow scored 1-4 against us from play. I think, try that. They got away with it once. I don't think they get away with something like that again. So I think, for me, Dublin should win this game. I mean, look, I hope they do, just only because it guarantees us promotion. But at the same time, look, I think Niall O'Callaghan will want to get back to winning ways, and he won't want to be going into the Leinster Championship on the back of 3 defeats on the bounce.
Yeah, I think probably Dublin will get over the line as well. If they're at home, they need a win. Makes sense. I think Dublin will get over the line and win this one. This is a game that probably connects the promotion battle and the relegation battle at the same time, because Westmeath entertain Waterford to TG Cusack Park on Sunday at 2 p.m. The situation here is like Waterford, they need a win probably just to back up that positivity for the Dublin game, beating them down in Walsh Park. That was a brilliant win for them, but just to keep the promotion charge up, they need to win this game. Westmeath, it's simple for them. If they lose this game, they're relegated to Division 2A. I think Waterford should win this game, shouldn't they?
Waterford should win this game, and it's not often I'll say this, but I sort of somewhat feel sorry for Westmeath. Not 100% feeling sorry for them, but just like in both hurling and football this year, they're probably the only county who, like, they've lost pretty much all their. I think they lost all their games in hurling and football. Yet, let's be honest, they've not. They've actually been competitive. I mean, they should have beaten Cavan in the football. They could easily, correct me if I'm wrong, they could have easily beaten Cork in the football. It was a very close game in the end. Well, the scoreline suggests it was anyways. I mean, against Meath last weekend, there was a controversy around the 2 managers giving out about the new rules and all that. But I mean, that was a 3-point game, and Meath are going for as well at the moment. They competed well up in Monaghan. They lost loud by 2 points. Like, the footballers will be sitting there going, how have we not won a game yet? And even similarly, Westmeath, I mean, look, last weekend, I wasn't at the Offaly game last weekend. I was elsewhere, but they sort of did heavily rely on Killian Doyle, and like he is a player that could start for most counties, certainly across Leinster, anyways. He's a terrific free taker, and he's a terrific player in general. And they do have some very, very good players. Peter Clark, Angus Clark. I know he's not there at the moment. Niall Mitchell. You know, they have some David Williams. They have some really, really talented players in their panel, and like they did compete well with us to a degree. You know, they competed well with Dublin, from what I heard. They were only a couple of points down to Laois at one stage before the wheels totally came off. Just up in Cork Park is kind of just where it's really the only game this year where they've just not performed at all. So, but yeah, for me, and look, Cusack Park is never an easy ground to go to for anyone really. It's a tight pitch, you know. It's a muddy ground, you know. It's never the simplest of places. But for me, Waterford just have too much. And I mean, when you look at the likes of, they're saying Austin Gleeson, I read their independent during the week. Austin Gleeson, Titan Burka will be able to come back for the game against Offaly on the 22nd of March. You know, I just think, for me, Waterford, they should have too much for Westmeath, I think. And it's going to be upsetting for Westmeath to go back down to Division 2A, you know, because they're certainly a team that should be in Division 1B, in my opinion. But look, it's a new league this year, 2 go up, 2 go down. And unfortunately, I think their fate's going to be sealed this weekend.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think Waterford will get over the line. It's positive news, obviously, that you mentioned about Tiborca and Austin Gleeson, because we were just wondering, where are they? Simple as, but you that you said, confirmed it for the independent there, that they are returning for the Offaly game. That's probably a positive for the hurling community that love the game as a neutral. Probably not for everybody else, because Tiborca and Austin Gleeson are unbelievable players, and the Munster teams obviously don't want to see them in a Waterford shirt anytime soon, but obviously they are. I think they'll win this game against Westmeath as well. This game is probably controversial off the pitch, in terms of off the pitch, more on it. Antrim against Laois on Cork Park, live at the TG Car Player and app at 1 p.m. on Sunday. Asterix if it goes ahead. Apparently, there was a story by John Fogarty for the Irish Examiner during the week that Antrim had a bug going around the camp. There was a virus going around the camp. I don't know, was there vomiting involved or whatever? That's obviously in-house. But according to John Fogarty, anyway, from the Examiner, there was rumours that Antrim would concede the tie to Laois. They wouldn't be able to field the team, and that'll be that. It's a crucial tie as well, because if Antrim lose this game, they're relegated already to Division 2A. So it's a crucial tie. But I just see the tweet on BBC Sport Northern Ireland there, and David Fitzgerald said this quote in regards to the game going ahead or not going ahead or whatever. There's been a virus in the camp, but we fully expect that we will be cleared by this Sunday. Let me be absolutely clear: win, lose or draw, Antrim are not and will not be making any excuses. So I think that's pretty crystal clear that Antrim will play the game. By hook or by crook, depending on the virus or whatever. So it's a crucial game for Antrim, this one, but they could be seriously affected by the ball going around the camp if the rumours are true.
Like Lasagna Gate from Tottenham in 2006. I had to get that in there. Sorry to any watching who are a Tottenham supporter. But yeah, no, he's come out fighting. He's come out saying this game is going ahead and that's that. I read it during the week and I was like, I mean, I don't want this game to not be played, because it's actually a very interesting fixture as well. Because we've seen, I mean, they've played Westmeath and they've played Waterford up there. One's gone how you expect. The bet. Hold on. I said that Westmeath would win that game, and sure, I look stupid now for saying that. And then the Waterford game was one that I just did not that I maybe didn't expect Waterford to win, but I wasn't expecting the way that they won it. You know, they essentially had the game won after the opening 5 minutes. You know, just they were so ruthless against them, and Antrim just had absolutely no response whatsoever. So I'd be intrigued to see how Laois get on this weekend against them, and especially with the fact, I'd say Laois don't want this game to be cancelled either. They had the Westmeath game cancelled, they had the Carlow game cancelled. I'd say they're sick, their supporters, of just reading on Twitter postponed. I'd say they're sick to their teeth of it, and especially when you have to travel all the way up there as well. Like, it was meant to be originally 12:30 and now it's 1 p.m, you know, so they've already had to make some changes there. But in terms of the actual game, I think, look, they had a bit of fight last weekend, crawling back a draw against Carlow, which was good for them. But I think Antrim's, I think they're cooked. Their race is cooked this weekend. I think Laois will actually go up and pick up a win. You know, I don't know whether that's a shock or things like that, just judging by how Antrim have played this season. But And look, I could be completely wrong. Antrim could come out absolutely fighting, and they could have a bit of spirit after that game last weekend. Obviously, you mentioned that they have the bug, so that could affect them as well. But like David said, there's no excuses from them, and there shouldn't be either. They're a team that survived Leinster last year. Picked up a big win against Wexford, picked up a win against Carlow, have been competitive against teams over the last number of years in Cork and Park. So, Joe McDonagh winners not so long ago. So for me, there shouldn't be any excuse. But for me, I think Laois will actually just have too much for them this weekend. I think unfortunately for Antrim, it'll be Division 2A next season.
Yeah, and that's a serious hit for Dave Fitz in his first season. I agree with you. I think Laois will win this game as well. And just because not for two reasons. Number one, the bug, and number two, just the form of Antrim so far this year hasn't been great, really. So I'm going to go for Laois to win that game as well. So we'll move on to Division 2, Division 3, Division 4. The games are on the ticker there. So starting off at Division 2, the games this weekend are Kildare against Tyrone at 3 p.m. on Saturday in St. Conleth's Park, and then at 4 p.m. on Saturday of Derry against Meath in Celtic Park in Derry. Then on Sunday, you have Kerry against Down in Austin Stack Park 3. That's on Sunday at 1 p.m. in Division 2. Then in Division 3 in hurling, you have two games on Saturday. You have London against Sligo in McGovern Park, Ruislip at 1 p.m. and Roscommon against Cavan in Dr. Hyde Park in Roscommon at 2 p.m. Then on Sunday in Division 3, you have Armagh playing at home in the Box Athletic Grounds against Mayo at 1 p.m. That's on Sunday. And then all the games at Division 4 are on Saturday, should I say, at 2 p.m. in Dowdallshire, if I pronounced that correctly. Louth against Longford at 2 p.m. in Division 4. You have Monaghan against Lancashire in Inniskeen at 2 p.m. And then Fermanagh against Leitrim also at 2 p.m. in Division 4 in Brewster Park in Enniskillen. I suppose the game that really stands out in those bottom three divisions is Kerry against Down in Austin Stack Park 3. So Down are in an excellent position. They scored 9 goals last weekend against Tyrone, 926 overall, which was just a crazy scoreline in many ways. And you look at Down in the table at the moment, they're top of the table, 4 wins from 4, 8 points on the board, a points difference according to Scorpio of 71, which is ridiculous. Can they go down to Kerry and win this game? If they win against Kerry, I think they're almost guaranteed promotion to Division 1B, which would be a magnificent achievement for Ronan Sheehan. And they've played absolute brilliant hurling so far.
Yeah, and I remember keeping up with our game last weekend on Scorpio, and I just remember seeing Down. I remember seeing the score at halftime in the Down Tyrone game. I think it was like 6-10 or something like that. Yeah. I couldn't believe what I was looking at, and then there was like glitches. I think I thought there was 10 goals in the game, and then it just turned out it was only 9. But it was a mental scoreline when I saw it. I actually felt sorry for Tyrone, to be honest with you. You never want to see a team taking a battering like that, but it just shows that Down are actually just too good for this division. Saw them last year against Kerry in the Joe McDonagh, and they could easily have won that game last year. They didn't lose by much. I think it was 26 points to 213, if I recall. I think it was only a 7-point defeat. So they're certainly getting closer and closer to Kerry. And I mean, look, Kerry have had a tough season. They lost to Donegal away from home, which was a damaging defeat for them. They've lost Fionn Mackesy, obviously, and I think they've Podge Boyle back last weekend. He was playing. Shane Conway, obviously, is a Kerry legend, really. Let's be fair about it. But I think Down will win this game. I think the form that they're in, some of the wins that they've picked up, some of the score lines they've put up have been absolutely excellent, to be honest with you. I think it'll be a Down Kildare league final. I don't see Kildare having too many issues this weekend themselves. So, yeah, no, and it'll be a very interesting league final. I remember the two of them played each other in the Christy Ring final in 2020, the year we were down there, and Down bet us in the semi-final, and I fully expected Down to go on and win it. I think Kildare bet them in the final. So there's a bit of history between the two of them in a way. Played each other over the last number of years in the Joe McDonagh as well, so they fairly much know each other. Kerry, just at the moment, they're just hit rock bottom in a way. A lot of their players are kind of getting a bit older as well. Those teams over the last number of years that would have competed well in the Joe McDonagh would have made the two Joe McDonagh finals, which they were 2 cracking games against Antrim. Absolutely savage games. That team is sort of kind of, I feel, passing its peak now in a way. It was, even seeing them at times last year, they weren't at their absolute best last year. They kind of looked like a bit of a shadow of what they were over the last number of years. But yeah, I think Down will go down, and ironic, not saying that again. I, they will go down to play the game, and I think they will pick up a win over Kerry. I think Kerry at the moment just are not the team that they used to be. And Down, for me, they look fresh, they look energetic, and I mean, they will want to continue on the momentum of scoring 9 goals last weekend. They'll absolutely want to try and punch their ticket up to Division 1B.
Yeah, I think Down will go on and win that game as well, and they look serious form at the moment at scoring 9 goals last weekend with a ridiculous scoring difference themselves as well. They're one of the 4 teams in the country at the moment, no matter what division they're playing in, and they will be good in the Joe McDonagh Cup, I'm sure, as well. Before we finish off, there are some games in the football as well, and we will discuss them briefly. There's 2 games in the football because they were postponed because of the weather conditions over the last few weeks. One game is in Division 3. You have Sligo against Clare Markovich Park on Saturday at 1:30 p.m. And then on Sunday in Division... Sligo Clare's on Sunday. My brain's gone. On Sunday at 1:30 p.m. in Markovich Park. And in Division 4 on Saturday evening, Wexford against Wicklow in Chadwick's Wexford Park at 6 p.m. So you look at Sligo Clare game, first of all. Clare had a brilliant win over Kildare last weekend, and I know Offaly aren't playing this weekend, but you'll be keeping an eye on this game because, look, if Clare win this, they'll be level on points with yourselves and Kildare. So this is a huge game in terms of promotion in Markovich Park this weekend, and for Sligo because they probably need to get a win here to boost their chances of surviving in Division 3. Then you look at Division 4, Wicklow against Wexford. If Wicklow win this game at the weekend, Wicklow will be level on the top of Division 4 with Wexford. So some 2 very interesting games this weekend, despite them being the only 2 in football.
I think do Wexford get promoted as well if they win this game? I believe.
I'm looking at this now. Limerick. So Wexford, yeah, I think they do actually. Wicklow will be on 6 points. Wexford will be on 10, and Wexford will beat Wicklow in the head-to-head. So yeah, Wexford will be up until win.
There you go. But there's your motivation there. You win and you're up. And obviously, look, Wicklow will absolutely not be simple. They've put up some good performances this year, but I just think I said it to myself at the start of the season. I thought it would have been Wexford and Limerick going up to Division 3, and I stand by that. I don't think Wexford will have a big issue this weekend if they can get a good home crowd to the game as well, because it'll be a big deal for them to go back up to Division 3 as well. And they'll get some very, very good games up there next year as well. I think they're way too good for Division 4. I mean, you saw that from the opening day. They demolished London, and then just ever since they haven't looked back. So I think for Wexford, absolutely no issues there. I think they'll be promoted this weekend. I could not believe. Well, could not believe is maybe a bit of a stretch, but seeing Clare beat Kildare last weekend, I thought Kildare were going to win 7 out of 7. I thought they were just way too good. They should not be in Division 3 of the football. And yeah, to see that result last weekend was bonkers to me. And Clare they've been quietly going about their business. Fierce. Well, the manager's name again, I can't think. The Kerry manager, Peter Keane. Yes, like he's got them playing some very, very nice stuff. And even the goal they got to win the game last weekend. I mean, it was a beautiful, beautiful strike. To be fair, so yeah, I'll be keeping a close eye on it, anyways. And it makes it interesting as well because, like you said, Clare will be a level on points with us in Kildare, and our last 2 games are Kildare at home and Clare away. So, it'll make very, very interesting viewing. And I mean, we didn't perform our best against Leitrim either, so there's absolutely no guarantees that we could get promotion beating the 2 of them. But at the same time, look, you never know. Division 3 is drawn up. It's become a lot more interesting nearly now than it did. And I mean, if you'd have said to me at the start of the season, Sligo would be in the position they are. I mean, they threw that game against Fermanagh away. There's no question about that. They should have won that game in the end. They were 5 points up a couple of minutes ago. I know in football now it's a bit more difficult than say hurling to hold on to a lead because you have the 2-pointers, and obviously you've had the win the last couple of weekends. Like, I mean, shame. I mean, you saw what Galway did to Donegal in the opening 20 minutes. They were like 17-0 up. So the 2-pointers and the win have played a big factor. But for me, I think Clare will win this weekend. I think they'll keep up their momentum. But like you said, Sligo, they need a win. They desperately need a win. I think it'll be an absolute catastrophe for them if they win, especially when you look at some of the players now. Patrick O'Connor up front, they've Spillane, like they have some very, very good players. Their goalkeeper as well, like I think of his name off the top of my head now. I think he plays some goals in soccer as well. Like he's a very, very good goalkeeper as well. I think it'll be a disaster for Sligo if they went back down to Division 4. So I think there'll be a bit of an edge to it. I could see it being sort of like how Sligo played against Galway last year in the Connacht Championship, where they should have won the game, and then Galway snatched it at the last minute. I could see something similar to that this weekend. I could see Clare winning it, and then like you said, it'll make our trip, Kildare's trip to us next weekend very, very interesting. And then I'm not sure who Clare are playing next weekend, but the final 2 rounds will be they'll be mouthwatering, to say the least.
I think Clare are going to play Laois as well, but there could be a situation, correct me if I'm wrong, no, but there could be a situation where Offaly lose to Kildare, Clare beats Sligo and Laois, obviously, and ye beat Clare and Kildare win their final game, whoever that's against. So I'm not entirely sure who it is against, but Kildare will be on 12 points, Offaly and Clare both be on 10, and ye go up because they're head-to-head. So there's always that as well. Like, it's going to be very interesting going down the home stretch.
I mean, I'll take that. Just get promoted. I don't care how you do it. It could be an Henri handball. It could be the Meath Loud situation from 2010. I don't care. Just if we could go up to Division 2 first year under Mickey Hart, especially after the year we had last year, and like, I would love to see the likes of Keith O'Neill, the likes of Cormac Egan back up playing Division 2 football. I think they would thrive up there. And a few other players as well, like Paddy Dunnigan, who I just love to see trying to score worldies coming up from the net like he did against Laois. But yeah, look, Kildare, they have Antrim at home. I'd expect them to win that in their final game. Laois pulled off a surprise win against, well, I say a surprise win. I was surprised that they bet Sligo, to be honest with you, and especially the way they did as well. They were comfortable winners over them as well. So they could pose a tricky enough challenge for Clare. So yeah, it's going to make for a very, very interesting end of league campaign. And I suppose people say buckle up.
Another situation which is in my head as well, if Kildare beat Offaly and Laois beat Clare and Clare beat Sligo this weekend, you'd have a situation going into the last round of games where Offaly, Clare and Laois will all be on 8 points.
Yeah.
This is mental, it really is. And you could have a situation where Offaly and Clare draw, Laois win, Laois dip in and go up.
Laois go up, yeah. Jesus Christ. that might not see me for, well, I suppose I'm a hurling man first, so I suppose I'll be, if the hurlers can go up, then I might not be too bad. But Jesus, if Laois went up instead of us, I'd be devastated. Especially when, like, I saw the game that we played against the doubleheader that day, in the football, like, we were so much better than them. Like, the scoreline nearly lied. We were 2-18 to 1-9 up with a couple of minutes ago. They got a couple of scores towards the end to make the scoreline look a bit nicer to them. But, like, just no. You've given me, Matthew, what have you done to me? No, I can't going up at this stage. That cannot happen. Kildare and Laois going up for me. Just, I suppose for you, it'd be like seeing Clare and Limerick like in a Munster final again. You'd just be like, no, please.
It'd be like seeing Kerry with the All-Ireland again. That would probably, yeah.
Yeah. No, please. I can't have that.
Exactly, yeah. We all hate our rivals. That is the be-all and end-all, of course, yeah. But thanks to Liam for coming on today. Thanks for anybody that viewed the podcast today. Thanks to Capture Athletics for sponsoring today's show once again. That's another weekend preview wrapped up. We'll be back again next week with a football weekend with a few hurling games sprinkled in as well. Until then, take care.